Well, hello everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the beautiful world you are. Yes, I know I've had some very, very worried and upset viewers because they wanted to know where has Jessie been for so long. And I'm trying to say, well, Jessie had a little bit of a vacay, and before that she was just healing as well. So she's back. We're all
I'm
back. Yes, I know there are lots of
Ready
very
for a
happy
great
people.
show.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of very happy people to be seeing you here today. So
Yeah.
welcome, beautiful lady. How are you? Are you better? Are you feeling good? How are things going?
Doing much better. So, yes.
Good.
Awesome.
Good.
It's been a very interesting week, I'd say. So sorry, I'm just seeing something on that's popped up on my screen. It's been a very interesting week. We've had some major furore over this whole Balenciaga ad, which we're going to be looking at. But also, before we actually go into that, what I'd like to do is there was also the whole Disney Christmas children's ad. And then, of course, this whole thing that pops up, we love Satan instead of Santa. And of course, it was a mistake, but a very revealing one at that, if not. I
Right.
also just think, I mean, we were just chatting off air now for a moment, and just I somehow think that this could be like a bit of an exposure going on here of this dark cult. But before we get on to Balenciaga, the whole Disney thing and the Satan thingy, what is your take on that?
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, children make mistakes, but that's one that as it was happening, they should have had somebody correcting it or, trying to move children, or you would think that they wouldn't post it or make it go live if it was a true mistake. Um, but they did. So now we all know, what's the truth that they do worship and love Satan, and we know that there's many people involved with Disney that is indeed the case. So
Yeah, absolutely. The whole, I mean, we know, I mean, we've spoken about Disney before. The Disney castle that's modeled on Neuenstein. Did I say it right today? Neuenstein Castle, is that right?
I call it Nurse Fonstein.
Okay, Neuschwanstein, whatever. But it's modeled on that, and obviously, which is one of the main hubs for the dark cult. Tunnels under Disney. All we have to do is look at the Disney stars, right? Coming out of who the child stars like Britney Spears, Justin Bieber, Christina Aguilera, Miley Cyrus. Kanye West is coming out dropping some major truth bombs at the moment about the whole mind control thing that's happening as well with him and the trainers. So I really think, do you think this could be a little bit of an expose from, I don't know, what's happening? Is it real mistakes?
I do, because we've had the last couple of weeks, it's not just one or two select individuals talking about this, but since the rally that I'll say DJT did, where he started putting out some of these words: torture, satanic ritual, and now all of a sudden, we've got people even on the news. They're talking about the movement of children and issues, and they're bringing stuff forward. So I think that it's actually a lot of exposure going on, bringing stuff to the surface.
Absolutely. And these little mistakes are just happening so beautifully, aren't they? And a perfect
They are.
opportunity. Of course, and I use that opportunity. I've been in Facebook jail and restricted, but at least Elon's giving us a little bit of free reign on Twitter now, right? Thanks, Elon.
Right?
But I just see this as such an opportunity to share this stuff, like share, and create awareness, because a lot of people are actually, I feel, ready. You know, I think maybe after this whole zappity-doo thing and the sudden deaths and things that are occurring, a lot of people are questioning, maybe like the next stage of questioning now, which I think is beautiful. So that brings us then to what we were talking about, the whole Balenciaga ad, which I'm sure everyone watching, all our viewers watching this channel know that Balenciaga put out an ad on Instagram a few days ago, really
Right.
with kids with bears in bondage and all sorts of horrific stuff. I'd like to, you know, can you speak to us on that, just from your opinion, what's going on? We've got a lot of pics and stuff here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they've put out statements saying that it was a mistake, that, you know, they should have not allowed the artist to do stuff like this. But the fact is that they did, and that they still, you know, it's like, we know how those companies run. You know that there's people who are overseeing before they make things public. And they chose to put it out there. But we know that there's more nefarious things behind it, because, you know, these images aren't just, you know, art. And that's what they're wanting us to believe, is that it that it's just art. But the truth is that these really reveal intentions of people's hearts, and I believe that it really reveals that they've been doing nefarious things with child modeling. And you know, more so, I mean, some of the pictures that I have seen from this group, um, you know, I believe that they are involved in satanic ritual, and that they are making, you know, whether you want to call it memorial trophies or um, keepsakes of the things that they've done. Um, you know, I don't think it's that they're just painting pictures of some random child that they've never met or seen. I think they're depicting real scenes that have taken place. But
yeah, sure.
Maybe what we can do is just go through some of those pics, because I mean I mean, a lot of us have seen the ones doing the rounds on the internet right now. But maybe, Mona, you can just show us some of the pics.
I actually have a very cool TikTok about the that photos this one guy released. I would like to play the TikTok before we go through the pics. Yeah. Okay. Let me put it on.
Go for it.
There is a lot happening with Balenciaga right now, and it literally just keeps getting worse. So if you're unaware, Balenciaga, the big brand, released an ad featuring children holding teddy bears that were dressed in bondage. Now, for good reason, this sparked outrage because it's completely inappropriate. But what this did was it opened up the Pandora's box of how completely grotesque this company is. When you dig deep into their other product advertisements, there are subtle hints of pedophilia and child exploitation in almost all of them. If you think this is just a picture of a Balenciaga bag, you're wrong, because down here there's a reference to a court case that was ruled in favor of virtual child you-know-what. Oh, but that just might be a coincidence. Now, while you may want to believe that's true, do you know how many eyes are on product placement for a brand like Balenciaga? Not to mention, there's more. This picture here might just be somebody sitting at their desk in New York City, right? Wrong. What are these books here? Who is Michael Borman, and why is his book featured in a Balenciaga ad? It must be a good book. Wrong. It's a book that depicts child exploitation. There are horrific depictions of nude children in this book that Google can't even show them. Now, I know this is a lot to take in, but we're still not done. This photo here, he's got a nice outfit on, good looking model. But who is this here? John Philip Fisher. Couldn't be the same man that was accused of molesting his granddaughter at 4 years old. Now, I know I'm going to get called a conspiracy theorist for this, because we already are. Multiple news outlets are saying that this Balenciaga issue is a wild conspiracy theory. But if it was a conspiracy theory, why would Balenciaga apologize for it? They literally issued a statement apologizing for their photo shoots. So clearly this is not a conspiracy theory since Balenciaga admitted fault. But you see, an apology, it isn't enough. We know how many eyes are on product placement. We need to know why this was allowed. And don't confuse this for cancel culture. This is children that we're talking about.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's
And,
crazy. It's like, why would they put those books and stuff in the advertisement? Because us regular folks obviously won't pick it up. So is it like ways for them to signal, to tell somebody in the crowd to...
Yeah,
I don't know.
obviously.
Or
It's
to
all
bring out
symbolism.
names of high-level members, like, you know, they do honorariums. So it's a way to honor the people behind the scene, without directly naming them, or, you know, whether they're sponsors or donors or people who have invested in the work. Or sometimes they will honor their, you know, in the system they have, depending on positions, you have different trainers, you have different people above you who may be putting you into certain positions or backing the work that you're doing. So they will, you know, put those subtle honorariums in there.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Let's show some photos. Wait, let me do this one.
Okay, this was one that I actually found online, and I was horrified by the amount of symbolism. And okay, I know it doesn't say escorts there. It's sort of like hot esorts, but the first thing that I think, and I actually did that deliberately, and I posted it, and everyone thought, except one person questioned, that said, what was the word? It was hot escorts, right? So that would be part of what they're doing. And then, I mean, if you look at the snake at the back, Jess, decode this for us, if you don't mind. Talk to us about the symbolism in this ad.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you have the planetary theme in several places. You have it on the back wall. You also have it on the shelf there, representing time. And we know we've talked about how sexual exploitation occurs at, or we'll say it's interdimensional. So we have to ask are they advertising, sexual magic here? There's some things that, around spiritual gates, often they will have familiar spirits that will guard those gates, which will be snakes. But we know that snake also represents Lucifer as well. So, I want to know what's really going on these hotel resorts. A lot of dark sexual implications. And as you get, I think, Renee, you had pointed out when we first looked at this, up at the top of that shelf under the sunglasses, you have what looks like ball. So reference to ball there. And then, as we go down, we start to see more of the sexual things on the floor. Again, they're put in you've got movement to this picture, especially with the shoes. You have the shoes going in certain directions on the outer rim, and then you've got shoes going a different direction on an inner rim. And you've got all these objects on the ins, or, kind of 3-layered like clock. And just some of the stuff that's there, it's kind of, it's like not regular stuff a child is going to have in their room, so we know that I think that they are definitely making statements about that. We talked about jewelry, how jewelry can be a symbol of the beta kitty sex slaves. So we see a lot of empty chains here, and you know, necklaces, trinkets, but they're gold and silver. Usually we'd see diamonds or jewels. They don't have any of that really in here. It's very plain. So very interesting.
What I find interesting as well is that she's standing elevated on that little heart, the
Mm-hmm.
heart, because that's a heart shape, and that isn't that the pedophile? Because in fact, one of the Australian survivors commented on this, standing in there to stand elevated on display. So it's the the whole pedophile symbol and that whole display, the way they fold their arms as well. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. This thing
I have
is
heard
just
that, and others have talked about how that was part of their training, that they had to stand on an elevated item for long periods of time. So, um,
for what? Why would they need to stand on an elevated item? What for?
yeah, I don't remember the full story from that individual, but yeah, I wanted to just point out I've heard of it being spoken of. When I
Okay.
saw children on display, it was more in lines, or it was their artwork that had some sort of connection to their body, like the handprints or things that they had made or created that were being sold. Um, I saw them traffic through the Frank Lloyd Wright uh, museums and houses where there would just be lines of kids and the mothers would walk past and choose that child or not. Um, so that was kind of how I saw them trafficked, but
Okay.
I'm sure, we need to be aware, because I think there are things being pointed out. And definitely when you
Mm.
look at, the words on the bed, the way that this child is standing, it does look like hot escorts.
Yeah,
So I don't think
Mm.
anything is by accident.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm just
Wow.
thinking, this koala, the koala here on the left of her side, and I don't know, this on the other side almost looks like a kangaroo, but it could be a dinosaur. But I'm just thinking, is there some reference to Australia with this photo?
That's very possible. Yeah,
Is
very
that a koala
possible.
though? Is that a
Yeah,
koala on the red stand?
yeah, a purple koala is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's possible. And then you've got down below what looks like a polar bear there too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah,
obviously the white rabbit
right? The right
in the
rabbit.
chrome
Because
next
that's
to the
it.
red,
Yeah.
the
That's all
only
the
red box.
adrenochrome symbolization as well. The white rabbit
Yeah.
and the mind control and all of that.
And
Wow.
it's funny that the white rabbit is next to the only red object here on the bottom, which is like the blood.
Hmm. Yeah, very, very interesting. And,
And the other
I
red
wonder if
object,
somebody's looking through these pictures, looking for these children, saying, are they still alive? Are these children safe? Or in fact, did something happen to them where they're being exploited?
Isn't it sometimes using their own kids or families' kids or something in these fashion shoots?
Sometimes they do. Yeah,
Yeah, because then I mean, at least no, they can't. They're not if they're not using trafficked kids. No one will recognize them then. I mean, if that's a
right,
trafficked little girl, someone could well recognize her. I don't know that they would be being that brazen. But that picture to me just is so heartbreaking, honestly. It's just
right.
so
yeah,
heartbreaking.
I think we
Mm.
have
yeah,
to remember how these individuals work, is that, they do, like they run under the guise of modeling agencies, where they take children's portfolios, um, and they run it like a business or organization that these children willingly come to partake in. And then, it's as they get more and more involved where they'll center on certain children, and that's where they get the children involved in the trafficking, that usually it starts with them introducing that child and the parents to, people who are kind of exclusive in that world, and they present it as they're giving that child a special opportunity, and that's how they get them connected to certain people within the industry. Um, what they don't know behind the scene is that exclusive individual has already purchased or bought or, um, you know, made a bid on that child, and that then um, their focus is to, you know, do horrible things to that child, but um, they just need the opportunity to cause harm. And once they, not it doesn't work the same exact way for every single child, but um, that's some of the things that I've picked up on how these organizations were working.
Wow. I'm just checking something else. If you look at the only red things, like the koala on the red chair on this side, and then you've got the lava lamp, which is also purple and red. Is there any significance with purple and red together?
Yes, it'd be more like kind of a blue and red, which you do have that with the koalas too on the other side. You also have the or the red books up on the shelf. And a lot of times the red covers on books were specific to high level magic books. Um, so, we could ask, like, why did they have a blue and red rocket ship? In in that in the system, the blue and red often represented Rome and Judah. So there was, that that differentiation between Israel and Rome. And we saw that even in who was it? One of the famous actresses uh, came out in for the inauguration. She was wearing the blue and poofy red dress with the big bird pin, and her hair braided like Frida, who was one of the freedom fighters. Um, so that represented, Rome and Judah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So put on the next one.
Yeah, so these are very interesting too. Again, what we see is a lot of adult symbolism that we shouldn't see a child in that scene. Um, One of the other things I caught that I'll point out with these pictures, but notice through a lot of this artwork, you see the children in tennis shoes. That is significant, I believe, because, we have throughout the United States, there's several, like tennis shoes often were used to indicate drop spots or places where you could access things. I know in my area when I was a kid, they would throw a lot of the tennis shoes like tied together over um, the electricity lines, but only in certain spots. It was wherever they had a spot that was a drug pickup or things like that. So often that would represent, that it was a pickup spot or a drop spot. Here you see, in the first picture, you see obviously glasses that are used for alcohol. So why is a child in in a place where they've got glasses for alcohol. The other weird thing I'm noticing in this, and particularly in that one, is the placement of the silver cup with the straw. Um, you know, whether they're meaning that to look like a phallic symbol, I'm not sure, but they've got that silver cup in all of their stuff. So, it looks like it's changing positions from left to right to being full center. Um, you also see the bears changing positions. Um, so I don't know if that had certain meaning to them based on the placement. Um, if indeed that cup is being rotated like on a clock, it very well could mean, dimensional access, because that's how they would use diamonds or lace, would be to clarify which dimensional access they get with certain children or beta kitty sex slaves. So, here this would be the 12 o'clock placement, so it also could indicate time, um, on certain things. But so yeah, the other one, we see a lot of we see the dragons, the moons, even, the bed has that half moon shape. And you've got the coming and the going of the moon cycle. Um, so it's interesting that with that, when we think about the shifting of the moon or the moon cycles, what's interesting is that this artwork lines it up perfectly so that that moon cycle goes in your imagination straight through that little girl's female parts. The moon cycle literally goes straight through her female parts. And, again, we've got the rabbit with the adrenochrome. And, the bear kind of there in an area where it shouldn't be, connected to her body. So.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, this one for me brought back, a lot of memories that, before rituals, they would have the children, paint pictures or do artwork. A lot of that then would be sold or displayed. So we see a lot of that with the kid artwork up on the walls. And, then in the far back, you've got the rabbit with the adrenochrome. Again, you've got the bear there, and we've got the tape that says ball. And I know it's probably more, but it's the way they're just, it's probably their name, Balenciaga, but the way they're displaying it, you clearly see the ball. Some of the same imagery, but yet here now we've got the little boy who's got red shoes, which we've talked about how, red shoes, with the Red Shoe Club, and how, really that there's ritual things done where they remove the skin and make clothing out of that. And so you see some of that interconnection, and you have to ask, like, is this really displaying a hierarchy child? So again, the other thing, I just wonder with some of their symbolism, you've got the teapot, which represents tea time. Some of those same symbologies are used in Alice in Wonderland. The rabbit, the teapot. You've got a chair in this one. So we see some running themes in some of these pictures.
Yeah, that's a close-up.
Mm-hmm.
It's spelled with 2 A's on the tape instead of 1.
Right.
So the chief designer of this company, and just a few pictures on her Instagram. And this is one of the followers, or that's just the other. It's not the hair, but it's one of the designers. And we get to hers. Yes, her Instagram.
Yeah, cannibal corpse in a church.
Best space to practice. She
Yeah,
says it's
and what's interesting, you've got the letters in blood on her shirt, but we've seen other high-profile individuals who have worn clothing with that kind of blood look on the shirts. We saw, Ellen DeGeneres wearing it with what looked like a face, the face off of the volleyball out of the famous Tom Hanks movie. Really what is that representing that, it represents that what we now call frazzle drip. So yeah, and there you see the ritual table, and the altar to Baal, or Molech, whichever one, the pentagram on the wall. Yeah, and that, I picked up a lot of in the artwork in the different pictures, a lot of the symbolism of dismemberment. And that would be things in ritual that they indeed would do. We've talked about removing a face. Also, they will dismember certain parts. Remove the feet, remove the hands. And they'll do that. They'll prolong the torture of the death. By doing that, it's like a slow, painful death, and these people are very aware that they're dying, but they're killed piece by piece, which is, so we got to think about this. This isn't just their, most of the time when someone says ritual killing, people just imagine, somebody being put into a pentagram and a dagger going through their heart. But this is not how this Luciferian Brotherhood works. These are wicked people who are intent on killing, but, they take pleasure in the wickedness of that murder. And, I've talked about how they, would paralyze, they'd give a paralyzer so the children, couldn't move or anything, but they wouldn't be given painkillers or anything to lessen the pain, and these children would be, consumed piece by piece. So, I think that these pictures, it's like, how would these artists, like, even who even has thoughts like that where they would think this is art? Um, it goes beyond just a natural human curiosity or thoughts that would be in their mind that I think it shows us that in order to even think of things like this, they had to have witnessed, seen, or been engaged in this type of stuff to even know that it exists,
Well, that's what I was, that's always my thought with these things, because we know, um, obviously from speaking to you, how it works. So again, I can't help but feel at some point this person was an innocent. At some point, this person saw these horrors go down. At some point, this person was a victim of this. They would never be where they are today unless they experienced this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And which is very funny if you look at the pictures here on the side. There's only one person, Mamiya, and the rest looks like hybrids or other
Yeah.
creatures.
Right. And
It's
that
just
top one, what's interesting about that top one is Timothy Charles Homseth has put out videos of the little girl with the pig mask, and it almost looks like a child with a pig mask on.
oh gosh.
And then if you go down a little bit, those pictures, it looks like a reptilian man with some sort of pharaoh hat on. The other one the one right above it has two faces almost, but they look like, again, the faces are off. So,
Oh gosh, this is so disturbing.
yeah.
Very disturbing. Also one of her.
That's just disgusting. Oh my gosh, this is horrific.
Yeah. I agree. It's horrific. You've got, the claws. Obviously, the panda bear looks like it's consuming the child. But even look at the position and the timing of the thing. It looks like you have one of the tongues literally, behind her, which is, we know the symbolism of the panda eyes. It comes through sodomy. So, just that representation of the panda and the sodomizing that's here.
Goodness.
Yeah.
The good old gloomy bear days. I can't even think. Yes. Yeah, okay, it's just like one of the artists' Instagram.
Yeah, that symbolism of Pan,
Yeah.
or the goat, often Lucifer was seen that way, other Greek gods were seen that way, but primarily, Pan, which, Pan is one of their symbols for, the god that would come and steal the children away, sing the siren song, and, they have different symbols that represent Pan, even with their hand symbols, where, we've seen what we call the satanic symbol, but when the thumb is behind, that is their symbol for Pan. So sometimes just with their hand symbol, they could indicate Pan, and that is connected with sexual exploitation.
Another one of hers.
Yeah, in this, in the rituals, this would be a common stance that we're going to see, but it's like, why are people just putting this up? Because what it really represents are, the high priests that defecate and, put their bodily fluids on individuals before they sacrifice them. And, so a lot of this stuff that, we're seeing, and there are orders. I've brought out how there's the order of the toilet. And here you see, like, even some of that symbology in the words. where they say she's going to eat his poo. It's not a joke. It's not something that's funny. These individuals, in their torture, they really do stuff like that where, they make their victims eat bodily fluids or feces, um, or blood. And, we have to really wake up to the horrors of what is being done to these victims. And, just to call it satanic ritual abuse or sexual exploitation is not enough, because there is a depth to this wickedness, and that depth needs to be called out and named. And we need to say, hey, this is not okay. We're not going to continue to allow it.
Because that's complete humiliation. I mean, imagine being that woman lying there and having someone defecate all over you. I mean, it's not enough just to torture and prolong and cannibalize, but they've got to humiliate them in that way as well. It's absolutely insane. And if you look at this thing, this is a while ago. I mean, this is like 200 weeks ago. So we're going back like 4 years that this has been up on her Instagram. So isn't it sick just thinking that this is how long this stuff is going on in front of everyone, because it's only recent that she's made her profile private from what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is up for everyone. And you look at these comments from people who really love this perversion. It's a mind hack to me. I'll tell you something.
Yeah, sure.
Oh gosh, what on earth?
Yeah. And that looks like there's been some pictures going around of videos with infants that look similar to this. I have not been able to validate the reality or the realness of it, so I'll just put that out there. But it represents the, hybrid dragon babies. And you can find some of the videos are still up of the hybrid dragon babies that have been around. So
Sure.
yeah.
What on earth?
Yeah, it looks, I mean, this has everything. You've got body bags, you've got Anubis, you've got what look like mummified individuals in, sexual torture attire. And then you've got your poor models in there. So yeah, some of the symbolism is just, it's so
What are
in
they
your
doing
face.
there? Is this a party? What occasion would this be?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're having a party. So
Okay. Well, party on, everyone. There ain't my kind of vibe. That's for sure.
No. No.
Wow.
yeah, and here again, that symbol, I mean, you've got the dismembering, the death. You've got the rabbits killing, which some of that goes into some of the, pictures that have gone out from Planet Comet Ping Pong, that had the rabbits and the men dressed as rabbits in pictures with children. And here it looks like, the way they've got the hand shaped, it looks like a dagger on the one half, but then you see it's a bird. And certainly that they're not going to be able to kill people with a bird, but all the symbolism is there. And
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and this guy sees she's holding like a guy in the corner that looks like he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, this one is probably one of the most disturbing. You know, what I witnessed as a child is that they would put plastic bags over the heads when they were suffocating people and killing them. So that's you know, a common way for them to cause torture and death. Um, you know, but it's hard to know. The other symbolism that this can have is that, but usually you'd see it more individual, is that, you know, they do, the victims that they use to cannibalize, sometimes they will put all in plastic. So,
Yeah.
and again, the panda and the panda symbolism on the right there with the female sitting in the panda's lap. And, you know, you've got a man there. It kind of looks like Arnold
Mm.
Schwarzenegger, but you see the
yeah.
children around. But he's kind of got, it looks kind of like the enlarged feet or the off-centered feet there. Um, you know, so it's
Wow.
interesting that they, I mean, this looks like it's even a real book. So that they have books like this that have children and sexual, you know, things in it. I don't know if
Yeah.
this is a book with their artwork, if this is art that they've done that they've then put into a book or a portfolio. I don't know for sure on that.
What is her fetish with bears? Why do you think she would develop this fetish? I mean, that might seem like an odd question. Everyone has their fetish, but I'm trying to kind of imagine in my mind what has taken her to this place that these poor bears are forever being punished in her displays.
Yeah, I can't answer that question because I don't know her mind, but
Mm.
I think it's a way for them sometimes, you know, teddy bears represent small children,
Mm.
and I think that it's
Security.
their way to, you know, in a lot of their symbolism, they're displaying what they're doing without, you know, causing that auto reaction that legally is going to get them in trouble. Um,
Mm.
you know, because they can't display real little children and doing these things to real little children. So,
Mm.
you know, they go as far as they can, um, lawfully is maybe a way to put it, you know.
What's those dots? Is that like a star system or
I
something?
think it's representing, you've got that symbolism of stars in the sky, but also the placement of those dots, it's a musical key code.
Oh, wow. Well, that doesn't even explain it.
Yeah, that one's just disturbing,
Yeah.
you know. You've got the little boy in the high heel shoes and in that
Mm.
one, and you've the next one you've got the little girl, you know, the models that would be done up. And what's interesting is that that look was common with, you know, um, a lot of the very little modeling agencies. and the competitions like Jean-Benet Ramsey were in.
That's exactly what that reminds me of. Exactly. I was going to actually ask you if that could have anything to do with, is it Joan Benet?
Yeah, Jean-Benet. I believe so, but you also see in this symbolism she has to be against some sort of plastic or something. But I've talked about the handprints on the wall, and there
Yeah.
you have her hand perfectly in that position, as though she were putting a handprint on a wall.
Wow. It looks sick. That smile on her face with that curly hair. I don't know. That I find very disturbing, this picture.
Mm-hmm.
Just to answer some of our viewers who've obviously joined later. Oh no, where did Mornay go? Who obviously joined later. These are pictures from that I found on the internet yesterday from Lotta Volkova, who's the designer of Balenciaga. This latest fiasco that's going on. So we found this. This was on her Twitter page, which has now been, I don't know if it's been cancelled or made private or something, but these are images that we've taken off, or someone took off her Twitter page. And I'm actually just sharing it. I don't know, Mornay, you disappeared there. There was a couple of more. Do we still have some more, Mornay?
Yeah, so here you see the elemental symbols in alchemy being positioned like different numbers on the clock. And you see that symbol of death. So, yeah, very interesting.
Those are actually the astrological symbols, those ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what
Yeah.
that picture?
It's just the
what,
one here.
what is that?
Corner.
Yeah. What were you going to say about which picture?
Next one. Just wanted to see. Is Mornay frozen up?
Hello?
Hey, what the hell
Looks
is
like
that?
a poison.
Yeah,
like a
the poison apple, but it's got quarters in it. But that often can represent razor blades. So yeah, just again, forms of, things that are going to harm children and cause pain and torture.
Yeah.
What's happening here?
Yeah, here we have, it's showing blood flow like from a prick from a rose that causes pain through the nerves. So why do they need a pain chart?
Interesting, sure.
Yeah. And again, the deranged, scary rabbit.
Oh, this one.
And with this, even you have the coloring of the dress that the baby's wearing is like Rosemary's Baby.
Yes.
The red with the white. These ones, you know, to me, it just clearly says hunting parties. You know, these were things that I witnessed with children where they would, you know, have them naked running in the woods. And, you know, when victims were caught, they were tortured and killed.
Sure.
So,
Well, this person has obviously been part of that.
Sport, yeah.
yeah. Again, you know, something symbolizing a display of torture. So,
This is horrible.
yeah, and this also again torture, you know, but through they use sound or will have, you know, headphones with certain things that they're playing for programming that kids have to listen to. But it also reminded me of the electroshock therapy.
Wow.
Yeah. And this one, I mean, you know, I'm just trying to figure out how they can even display such things, but you have a child that looks dead and, you know, with all the organs hanging out.
That's
Yeah, and just lots of blood on the bed, blood on the sheets, blood on the floor.
life. And then the
You got the Olympics, which Olympians is a term for some that they will use. Yeah, and these George did a really good decode on these. On the reveal report, he talked about, you know, the merging of or the blending of the sexes that you can't really tell if it's a boy or a girl. You know, which often is a for them of Baphomet, you know, where they take away the children's true identities and they just blend everything into, you know, these really messed up images that are made to, you know, where children are basically a sacrifice to Baphomet. And with this one too, you know, it was some of her comments, the toilet paper dress. We talked about, you know, the order of the toilet. So, you know, even with this, there's that subtlety, subtle imagery that they're putting out there to draw people maybe through comments, without really, you know, telling people what, you know, people who aren't part of the club have no idea, you know, why they keep talking about toiletry things or bathroom things or, you know, but I think that some of this is direct advertisement, like we said earlier, that they're displaying these children. Who are they displaying them to? You know, which orders? which individuals are taking it, and are they, in their comments, in their words, are they giving the package deal? So that's what we have to ask. Are they advertising the types of sexual exploitation that these children are forced to engage in?
Oh gosh, this to me is probably the most disturbing scene.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that's a real kid.
Yep. I think just, letting that one sink in. And we've talked about, the sex magic in witchcraft. So they're putting it all out there, what they're engaged in.
Totally. Calls that bloodlust.
Mm-hmm. And this one, again, you've got a lot of the blood. You've got, more symbology in all of this. The structure of the building, the very square, kind of like, Epstein Island. You've got almost like that Egyptian type feel with the symbols that are right above the doors and the symbols on the doors. So
Is that it? Wow.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, if you take Balenciaga, Laga, or I'm not sure how to pronounce it yet, but if you translate it into Latin, it says, "Do what thou will, do what you want."
which is
It's
one of the main satanic, Anton LaVey and Aleister Crowley. Yeah, the do what you will.
And also funny, if you look, CIA is also in their name.
Very interesting.
Wow, this is pretty damn disturbing. But as I said, I think what really is good is that these things are being exposed, and that we are starting to see who's behind all this beauty that these celebrities and their kids and everything adorn themselves in these fake garments. This is the kind of rot that sits behind it. So more and more the world needs to see this. So I'm going to ask you guys, please share, especially this one, far, 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 far and wide. I think these are the kind of things that really need to be seen, because it's horribly disturbing. And if it's in your face like this, people can't get away. This has been on her on her Instagram account. And if you look at when some of those comments were made, it was like 3-4 years ago. So this has been going on since forever. And this has been right in our faces, and we don't even see it. We think it's like just a few weird people that have got a few fetishes. This goes way beyond people just having a fetish. This is highly entrenched in our society, and the most powerful people are endorsing this. But we've got a show with you on Solutions now at 4 o'clock our time. What time is it for you?
Yes.
11, right?
Right.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to then sign off from Aquarius Rising Africa. And before we do, please, if you wouldn't mind just saying a prayer for us.
Wait, yes,
But
we should correct though. Let me correct. You said 11. It's actually 9 o'clock my time. So in 20
sorry.
minutes is when, yeah,
Okay.
Eastern
Yeah, in
time.
20 minutes. Sorry.
Yep.
20 minutes time. Follow us on Solutions, guys. And Jessie's going to be talking to us about some of the beautiful miracles she's experienced in her life. Wow, I can't wait for that after this, because
Right.
God knows we need miracles, and miracles are our birthright. So let's go and
Right.
just create beautiful miracles after we've seen such depravity. I feel so bad for the people who are actually perpetuating these things. God
Yeah.
knows you must be living in such a dark place. I just thank God every day it's not me. And I so wish for everyone who experiences that they find their way out and they see the light.
Absolutely.
So
All right,
thank you,
let's pray.
beautiful Jessie.
Heavenly
Yeah,
Father, we just thank you for this time together again, Lord. And I just ask that you would lift this spirit of heaviness that is over us after seeing such things. I ask that you would just give us your spirit of hope, your spirit of perseverance, and your spirit of overcoming, so that we will not be held down or bogged down by the evil wickedness that is being laid bare before our eyes, but give us that vision to be able to see what to do about it, how to address it, how to tear it down and move it out of the way. And we ask that you would bring us to places where we can bear forth life, Lord. And we ask that we may be able to make this world a beautiful place for all the children of this world. And we just ask for that in your powerful name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen to that.
All right.
Jessie, thank you so much for your wisdom and your knowledge and that what you've shared with us today. As I said, really important information, guys. Please share this stuff far and wide. So important. We're going to be doing probably a few short clips on this one as well. So it's easier for you guys just to get out and we can share the short clips. So maybe just watch our social media platforms for the next few days when Mornay can work his magic there and share the stuff. Thank you so much. God bless you all. If you haven't already, please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe here. Find us in 20 minutes time on Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa, where we hear all about beautiful miracles in this world. Thank you so much, Jess. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Lots of love to you all. I'm sure Mornay is now. Is this me that's frozen or Mornay? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Mornay's internet seems to be giving him a hard time there. So let me try and see if I can actually do this. Okay, Mornay, can you do the thing? Okay, he's in.